consumers? Are we likely to benefit from cheaper rail fares, for example? Well, Julia Bue-Said is Chief Executive of Advantage Travel Partnership, the UK's largest group of independent leisure and global business travel agent experts. Good evening to you, Julia.
Hi, good evening, Kate.
Give us some more detail then. I think most people will look at this and say, well, is there any need? Is there a demand for this?
Yeah, so what we know so far is, as you say, Spanish state-owned train company Renfe is looking at operating through the high-speed rail link between London and Paris. It would put itself in direct competition with Eurostar, but actually across some of Europe, we have already seen liberalisation of some of the train operating companies, and they have expanded. Renfe itself does compete at the moment with SNCF in France, so we're starting to see an opening up of European train travel, which actually is positive for consumers. And I think particularly on the London to Paris route, there is one option for us at the moment, great for us in the southeast. But actually, any increased capacity and new operating companies on that route, we'd like to think could only be good for consumers from a pricing point of view and competitiveness.
And it's interesting that they're thinking of investing in this way when many might say, well, the effect of Brexit means that there's probably less demand for us to go to Paris. People are maybe a bit more wary about travelling as well. So it's sort of an interesting marker from them, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But I think what it does do is it also provides alternatives. So I think, alternatives for flying, people are looking at even myself, I'm in the travel industry, but we're already talking to a lot of our clients and corporate travel around, where there is a solution to potentially look at rail travel as opposed to flying. That is something we openly talk about. So we're very supportive of that from a sustainability perspective. So I think it does provide an alternative route, good competition on that market. But it really is only the southeast that will benefit from that. But so it will be an interesting move to see if this does go through and does benefit us from a competitive perspective.
Yeah. So funnily enough, the SNCF, which is the French national rail company, they hold a 55% stake in Eurostar International, which already operates in the Spanish market with a low-cost Ouigo line linking Madrid and Barcelona. So there's already French interest in Spain. It feels like Spain's wanting to come and nibble into French interest as well. How likely is this to happen? They've announced initial plans, but do we know what kind of hurdles they'll have to jump through in order for this to become anything near a reality?
I guess there's going to be regulatory approval required from both the UK and the French and Spanish French authorities. So I guess we're some way from knowing whether this will happen and when it will happen. I've not seen anything yet in terms of timescale. They've not really talked about when they're expecting this to happen. So it's really kind of waiting and see when that will be in place.
Yeah. And it's cheapest. It's something, well, the last time I went, which was granted a few years ago, that the sort of cheapest fare is that £69 fare, isn't it, from London to Paris for a single route. I just wonder whether they are able to be competitive, because if you think about it, they are going to have to be competitive. There's going to have to be a reason for them to encourage passengers to get on their train rather than on a Eurostar, perhaps at times which are less glamorous than Eurostar's chosen or gone with at the moment.
Yeah, but I guess what we have seen, over the years, whether it's train travel or even air, if you take the low-cost model on flying, there is demand. There is always a demand for a alternative modes of transport, alternative routes. Say at the minute we really have only one operator on the route from London to Paris. So I think hopefully it will lead to more competitiveness and actually opens up opportunities for many more to travel for those that don't want to fly, that want to look at alternative modes of transport. Hopefully what it does do is it shows that there are alternatives to reach the continent.
Will the air industry be worried about this? Because of course we can fly to Paris at the moment.
I don't think so. I think it's a very different market. So I think from a business travel point of view, again, if you're in the southeast, it is viable. I've done that route. I've done that route many times because of where I'm located. It's pretty viable for me to do that. But actually, if you're sort of Midlands, kind of southwest and Northern Ireland, Scotland, it's not viable for you at all. So I think it's very much driven by the southeast market, but it does prove attractive. So I don't think the airlines will be worried about it. The Eurostar's been operating clearly for many years now, and it's all healthy competition. So as I say, and I think in a day and age where people are looking at alternatives to travel and to air travel, and actually air travel can be quite take more time. Again, depending on where you are. So I think it's a viable, very good alternative for those of us based in the southeast.
Really interesting. Julia Lowe, Bue-Said, thank you very much for joining us. Chief Executive of Advantage Travel Partnership. That is on the news that Spanish Rail has revealed their plans for a high-speed London to Paris link.